within 5 or 10 minutes at most. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think you'd be a better state treasurer than the current incumbent.
All right, well, thanks. Well, first of all, good morning again to everyone. And thank you so much for having me here and giving me a chance to introduce myself to you. A lot of new faces in this room and a lot of new names, and I really appreciate your interest in this race. I, of course, think the Treasurer's Office is the most important office that nobody seems to talk much about. But I'll start by telling you a little bit about me. Connie Pillich, running for State Treasurer. I live in Cincinnati, but I actually was raised up in a small town on Lake Erie, working class area. I'm the youngest of 5. Went to public schools, and pretty much everybody's dad in that area worked at the steel plant. When I was in high school, the steel plant closed, and a lot of dads lost their jobs. It was devastating to our community and left little opportunity for a girl like me. Now, I always wanted to go to college. My parents strongly encouraged that, but I'm the youngest of 5. There wasn't money for kid number 1, let alone kid number 5. So I did a little bit of an unconventional route. I got an Air Force ROTC scholarship. That's how I put myself through school, along with working and taking out some student loans as well. And when I graduated, I got my commission, went off into the wild blue yonder. At that age, I was sure that the Air Force was my ticket to see the world, and right away I got to go to Biloxi, Mississippi. Followed closely by Grand Forks, North Dakota. So I probably saw 2 towns that nobody in this room has seen ever. But loved my duty. The University of Oklahoma is where I went for undergrad. Yeah, my dad had gone there and always talked about, I hate to say it, Oklahoma football. So my brother went there and I went there too. Well, my stock answer is that I prevented nuclear war. But Grand Forks is a nuke base. So I was largely in the field of communications electronics. In the Army, you would call that Signal Corps. And then my final assignment was as an assistant professor of aerospace studies, which meant I was teaching ROTC at the University of Cincinnati. So I was stationed in the United States. I was stationed overseas. I served in support of Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield. I landed in Cincinnati. That's where I met my husband, Paul, and we raised our children, Kayla and Talon. So I was a captain when I got out. And while I was on active duty, I got my MBA. After my children were born, I graduated from law school. And I practiced about 13 years, including banking law. And of course, my MBA was very helpful in that area as well. In 2008, I got elected to the state legislature. Now, I'm a Democrat from Cincinnati, so it's not exactly a bastion of Democratic politics. I won what had long been a Republican seat and quickly put a political target on my back. And in 2010, the founder of the Cincinnati Tea Party ran against me. 2010, as you all know, was a very tough year for Democrats, not just in Ohio, but across the country. But I focused on the issues that my constituents cared about, namely jobs and education. And on election night, when the polls closed, I had a whopping 5-vote margin. Now, after all the lawsuits, I picked up another 600 votes. So for me, it was a great victory. For my opponent, it was a narrow defeat. In 2012, my district was redrawn to make it more challenging for me. It was drawn to be 56% Republican. Again, I focused on the issues that my constituents cared about, jobs and education. And I'm really proud that in a 3-way race, I took 52% of the vote. And I think those 2 experiences, serving in the Air Force, I was 17 when I arrived at ROTC. And then 8 years on active duty right out of college. It really shaped me as a professional. But then running in these tough districts, I learned there's not a Democratic way or a Republican way of doing things. It's just the right way. And for me, it's not about keeping score or taking credit, having flashy brochures. It's about delivering results. And the same holds true for the Treasurer's Office. And that's the root of my campaign, really, that it's time to take politics out of that office. Like I said before, the Treasurer's Office is the most important office that nobody seems to talk about. But this is the central hub of all the money in Ohio. All the money comes into the Treasurer's Office. All the bills are paid out from the Treasurer's Office. This is where the money is. And of all places in Ohio, we don't need any political shenanigans in the Treasurer's office. There's nothing red or blue about balancing the state's checkbook. It's all green. But for too long, and I hope I'll be able to talk about this later, but too long we've had political shenanigans in that office, and we really need to put a stop to that. What do I bring to the table? I have the best leadership training in the world as a captain in the United States Air Force. I have an MBA. I ran my own law firm for 7 years, a successful small business in its own right. And I practiced in banking law. Great professional credentials to be the next treasurer. But on top of that, I have a history of working as a public servant. I have a lifelong commitment to public service, and that's what we need in the Treasurer's office. Perhaps as much, if not more, than anything else. So I look forward to talking to you about the office, and happy to answer your questions.
Give us some ideas of some of your policy proposals that you're taking into that office.
Okay. Well,